Hi, I'm Devin Moore, your host for Humanity Rising's Race to Speak Up podcast and founder of hashtag Race to Speak Up, an anti-bullying organization. The Race to Speak Up podcast is a place where we have open and engaging conversations about bullying prevention, how to be upstanders, and how we are making a positive change in our communities. So the question now is, how do you race to speak up? Hello and welcome to the Race to Speak Up podcast. I'm your host, Devin Moore. Today's guest is Margarita Espada. Margarita is the founder and executive artistic director of Teatro Yerbabruja, an organization formerly based in Puerto Rico and now based in Long Island, New York, that uses the arts as a tool for social change. In 2009, the organization produced a community-based performance piece called What Killed Marcelo Lucero, based on the November 2008 hate crime killing of Ecuadorian immigrant Marcelo Lucero. Margarita's use of the arts to promote civic dialogue among the diverse communities of Long Island has gained her the respect of community leaders and grassroots organizations alike. Welcome, Margarita. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm doing great. I'm really happy just to be here with you.
Awesome. I'm very happy to be speaking to you today. Can you tell us about Teatro Yerba Bruja?
Yes, Teatro Yerbabruja is at the beginning was a theater company that I founded when I was in my last year in college, Puerto Rico University. But when I migrated here in the year 2000, I saw a big need just to have art in theater, which is my background, for artists of color, Puerto Rican and Latinos. So I was like, oh my God, it's like nothing here, like for us. So Long Island was a very tough place for me because there was no opportunities and also a space to understand who we are as an artist. So Yerba Bruja is a plant in Puerto Rico. They grow in difficult circumstances, and they have also healing uh, power. You know, we can drink and we can you can trash the plant in any corner and keep growing. So it's mean resistant. You know, and so our national poet Juan Antonio Correger, he used it at one of his books in Puerto Rico. We got inspired with that book, with the poetry, and with the name of the plants, which is about resistance. So when I came here, I said, you know, I wanted to keep my identity because that was my work in Puerto Rico, and I don't want to erase who I am because I just switched to a new place. So when I saw the need, there was no theater companies, so art in general with they represent the people like me. So I decided that was at the time for me to organize. So in that time, um, I opened my own company, but a lot of artists came to me, especially Latino artists, immigrant artists, working in factories, working in different places, but they are all artists in their own country. But there was no an outlet for them. So the company expanded, they become more also, I decided, well, you know, it's not about only theater, it's about what the community needs. So we expanded also to visual arts and dance. And later, the Puerto Rican Hispanic Parade here in Long Island, there was going down. And there was a time there was almost, you know, dead. So the community also approached me. So I'm also now the director of the Puerto Rican Hispanic Parade, which is in the Fifth Avenue in Brentwood. Um, Everything was new for me. That was, you know, just for me doing theater. I'm a performer, theater director. I teach theater also. But when you're an artist and have this call also for the important of the art and the community, I feel is a natural right that should be mandate as a human experience. Everyone deserves art and culture. So for me, I had this in my heart. Like I needed also to organize the art and the culture for my community. So I become a cultural organizer, but it was never, you know, a career that I dreamed about it. But I'm very proud and happy. As you know, it's difficult in a place like Long Island, especially talking about sustainability, because sometimes the Eurocentric approach to the art in Long Island is not a lot of validation for artists like us. So it's a struggle but we keep working. I strongly believe in experimental art, contemporary art. We understand that we have a tradition, and that's important. But also, I understand that should be a safe place for new art, for people just to create. And the only way that you can create a new masterpiece is trying out new forms. So that's something that I really love to see, new artists doing interesting paints or exploring contemporary dance, new portraits. So everything is so important, so we can move to create a contemporary art. So we don't need to keep perpetuating what is already being created, but we should have also a safe space, not only for diversity and also the people of color, but also in a diversity of the different form of art. So also Yerbabruja is a space for that. We open up, we encourage new artists with new forms, and just to talk about it. Also, a main component is in our programs is to have civic dialogue. In order for us to use the art for social change, so the theater in my case provide a platform and a possibility through image, because what is art? Art is a language full of images through sound, through color, through body shape. So our creativity and our imagination and our language change, and we can speak in a different way because it's language. So later we can talk. And also theater offers you the possibility to see a different reality. So for example, one of the theory that I work very close is theater of the oppressed. It's the different technique where you have an issue or you're working with something specific in your own life or in a community. So they go into rehearsing process, games, and they explore different possibilities. So what happened? The community never thought about it, but theater offers you the possibility to see a new reality that you never thought about before. So now you can see, oh wow, that change is possible. So now we can rehearse also the revolution. We can rehearse how we made that change possible. And that's what theater do, and also other arts. The art is so powerful in the history of art. A lot of artists is being killed, or the art is being destroyed when it's a war. The first they happen when it's an invasion in a new country, they destroy the art, because the art really is the spirit of the people.
Oh, wow. That's so great that you're able to give people a platform to really express themselves, especially in a place where, everyone really gets it, like everyone really understands each other through art and through the language. I think that's really beautiful. Does Teatro Yerbabruja welcome all ages who want to use art for social change?
Yes, we work with different communities. We have, actually, we love the intergenerational. It is very important for us because it's important for older artists that we have experience, we went through the process, or we went to college, or we learn in a different way. We carry experience, and it's important to pass on and support new artists. At the same time, it's good to get refreshed with the new artists and get the new energy and the new generation. So it is important to respect both sides of the conversation and to create together. So that's one of the main components in my organization. We try to work in intergenerational way, and we also had youth programs focusing in Spanish language or related to what the kid wants. And we had also a mentoring program, so which is for young artists. They already doing art, but they don't know the business of the art. Sometimes, you are a poet, you're painting, but it's a process how you present, what is the marketing process for that, how the work is being curated, and how you produce a show, and where are the money. At the end of the day, you need that resources. So we try to also mentor them to market, the art. So that's also very important for us to support.
That's so interesting because you're able to really bring all these different components into educating others. Do you think that everyone has their own type of art that they can share with the world? Do you know what I mean? So like when it comes to poetry or literally drawing and painting, do you think everyone has that?
Yes, I feel that I strongly believe that that's a human experience, and we all have that. You need to get connected with which one is your outlet, so you can enjoy different art. Like I enjoy seeing painting, but I'm not really bad painting. My core is the body, is theater, is movement, maybe dance. uh People enjoy writing, but you know what happened, I think, especially in this country, that it's not like a nurturing, they do in school, but it really, at least this is what I see in our community. It's not something that you can like see and enjoy like everyday life. I'm from Puerto Rico, and it's a lot of art. So for me to be surrounded by art, hanging out with poets, a lot of galleries, murals all over the place. So it's become part of you second nature. So you are creating anyway, because that's part of who your community is. Here is so difficult, or sometimes the classes are expensive, or it's an issue with transportation. So it's not, or it's in school, which is, I feel the art in school is very confined. I really like when the art is in a community that is no rules, is no grades. You don't need to worry about it. You're not doing the way that the teacher told you how to do it. So it's a freedom to create, because also that connect you with your spirit and with your mental health, with your self-esteem, and you discover a lot about yourself creating art. So yes, everyone is an artist.
I think so too. I think that the youth especially really need that space that you're giving them to, you know, really express themselves. I mean, I think everyone needs to express themselves. And by you allowing them to do that through Teatro Yerbabruja with art and with all these different types of art, as well as learning about, culture and language, I think that is something that honestly a lot more schools need. I mean, I know we're talking about how schools may be like more on the confined side and, you get told exactly what to do. I think maybe for schools who are that are directly like that, I think those schools need to be more open with that, because children, I mean, literally anyone can be so creative when just given a pen and a paper or a paintbrush and like a board or something. The type of like art that I would say I'm into is more so poetry. I know that's like for me, it's kind of just my way of really expressing myself. I remember I participated in for the NAACP's, it's called ACSO, which is the Afro Academic, Cultural, Technological, and Scientific Olympics, which is a long, a long title. But it was cool because so I participated in the poetry, and I wrote about my bullying experiences. I went through, a lot of racism in my middle school, and I was talking in the poem about how I'm taking that and I'm using that experience. Like, I understand that this is racism, and I understand that this really was traumatizing. It hurt me a lot, but I'm using that negative and like bad, harmful, and traumatizing experience, and I'm turning it into like a teaching moment. I'm turning it into a positive so that I can help others. Since I understand that, so much, I'm saying, a lot. I'm saying, I mean, I see a lot within the youth that there is way too much bullying and we need to put an end to it. And I'm like, that's why I started hashtag race to speak up, my anti-bullying organization. That's why people like us are starting our organizations, to help others and to give others that platform in order to express themselves and learn about culture, learn about these different types of things that they're not, used to. And then going back to what you said about, when it comes to the art exhibits and just seeing these different types of art, well, just straight up, it's different types of art and being around that type of culture, it sounds so beautiful to me. What art exhibits stand out for you?
Going back to this point is, it's so important that the art exhibits are diverse, so you can see your own culture, and when you see of the art, or different culture related for people like they look like us. I feel that the issue in Long Island is all this gallery, the art is kind of the same, very Eurocentric, the same people. So that needs to change, and it is important they give the opportunities are presented to the amount of artists of the range of diversity that we have in Long Island. So we did a show, our last show, well, not a show, but the show before. We celebrated the first Indigenous Day. There was Columbus Day. He said, no, it's not Christopher Columbus don't discover anything. There was people already in America. And there was already people, you know, the Native American people. We live in Long Island. This is a Native American, you know, place. We have reservation. We have indigenous. So, and also from Latin America, as an immigrant people, they come from indigenous background. So what I did was to put together indigenous people for Latin America, from Mexico with, you know, Aztec descent, Incas descent, Tainos, with the Shanaka people, with the Montauk people. So indigenous from Long Island meeting indigenous background people from Latin America. Because what happened with us, they say Latino, Latinx, Latin, whatever, the labor. But that also erased our identity because it's Afro, Puerto Rican, or indigenous Mexican. So the whole concept of putting labor to us when we come to this country really remove us, our part of our identity. So I want, with that show, what I wanted to bring to the conversation is that identity is beyond the Latinx experience. So we come from a country, we have our own culture, and a lot of that culture is very indigenous. And I'm working with this project with, it's a Big Rick Long Island. It's based on the book Joy Harjo, our national poet for American Sunrise. Actually have an event next year, a reading. I would like to have you too. So it's about reading her book, and she will be in Long Island April 8th next year at Stony Brook University. So the idea is we are reading together the same book in a different context, and people doing art, people creating their own poetry based on the topic of the poetry, which is like a very related to what we do, our land, our race, displacement, for the indigenous people, and for all of us as a people of color. So I'm in collaboration with the Chanacon Nations. I'm working with them, and we are building that bridge with that community. Is almost invisible, like no one is talking about the indigenous people in Long Island, but we drive around like Ronkonkoma, you know, when there's all these names, and you know, like they become so normal. People, this is a weird name. They don't know, or they don't understand that there are the names that belong to this land for the originary people that was here before us. So I wanted to honor that, and I also wanted to listen to them, and I wanted to learn from them as a respect this land that we are just shared with them now. So that's a big project that I'm still running until 2022 next year. So we have a different events in our firehouse, but also with the Chanaka reservation at the gallery space. So that's one show. We also have a satellite gallery in Pronto, Long Island. It's in Bay Shore. So Pronto is an organization that support people in need with food, you know, like food insecurity or hunger. It's a lot of people that are suffering from that, you know, as we speak. People, no jobs, children, no food. So they do that. So I was like volunteer with them, I supported them, and I saw, you know, every day the long line of people waiting to get fed. And I was like, you know, I would like to have this space full of art. I want, when people come here with a need, they need food, they're struggling emotionally, they can see beautiful piece of art. So we have a conversation, and we have a satellite gallery there. So now when people go to, you know, they're waiting for the food, they can also enjoy art and feeding the soul, no? That we're talking projects like that. You don't need to go to a specific place. You can be created in with collaboration, you know, have art in any place. So that's a beautiful project that we're also working. And another one that I am doing, I strongly believe in public art, because mirrors, you know, banners, everything is like, you know, a sculpture. Our community, when a community is full of art, people feel better. People, it's a civic conversation. You know, we stop, we look at the mirror, we meet people. So this year we did about 4 mirrors in our community in Brentwood and Bayshore. And we did, if you go to downtown Centralized now, we drive by, you will see banners with different artists hanging by the light pole. So the idea is that you're driving and you can enjoy art. If you are in a bodega, it's art there. So we did one project when with new immigrant students. They came from Latin America, and so the issue in the school is they don't have classes for them because they don't speak English. So they enjoy art, they love art, but it's nothing for them. So the teacher approached us as organization. They wanted this student, they know art, to do something for the community, and they wanted to do a mural. So we went, this is in the Fifth Avenue. So the owner of this building wanted to honor the immigrant experience. So the mural is, the student designed the mural, they painted, but honoring also the day laborers, the people that they are waiting, to get a job. So it's a way to honor the community, honor the business and the artists, because the other components of the art is economic development. So art bring money to the community. If you have, when you go to a city, you see a show, oh, let me go to a city. Why you go to see a Broadway show, you go to the gallery. So what happened after? You go for a dinner, for a coffee. So art bring tourists and bring economic development, because people go to the restaurant and people shop around. So it's important to understand that what we offer is very, very important for the community and all different aspects. It's not like art is something that people do because, lazy people or like luxury. No, art nationally bring a lot of money to the economic force in this country. And that's important to talk about that, to people, for new artists to understand that that is a way to sustain your community.
That's amazing. I'm so like amazed by what you're doing because this is happening in a town that I'm living in and I didn't even know about that. And that's kind of what's so, mind-boggling to me. See, these are the type of things that we need to, I always think about it as like when it comes to school, because we need to learn about these things in school. And that's why I'm so, like happy that you're doing that through Teatro Yerbabruja. You're educating about culture, you're giving people a place to learn, but you're giving them the freedom to do all these different things like art and like expressing themselves. It's so interesting. And then the story that you told me about the immigrant students who came here, and Long Island really does have a lot of history. I remember one time I was doing something dealing with one of the a cultural awareness club that I'm in at my school, and it was Native American History Month. So for that, we were looking into specifically like different tribes that were in Long Island. That's when I learned some history about how like all these different towns or all these different places, like you see the what's it called? Like the roads, I mean, and they're named after these different tribes, or you see the towns and they're named after these different tribes. And it's just like there's so much history here, but we need to really teach that. And that's why I'm so like proud to be or happy and honored to be speaking with you about how you're able to do this through Teatro Yerbabruja and through your passion for helping others. It's so interesting too, just really learning about it.
I think you're right. It's so important because it's a lot of history, but it's a disconnection. It's like it's no, it's have too many layers. It's about getting the voice out. It's about getting our place, fight for our space, like exactly what you're doing, exactly what I'm doing. So we need to create our own space, because no one is calling us, hey, here's your space. Later, yes, maybe. And still when you're sitting at that table, still when you're negotiating, still they wanted to give you a little piece for little something. No, it's like I'm not like a Hispanic Heritage Month. Don't call me because you need a Latino artist or a Black artist. Like, I get offended when people just call me like, hey, next month I need to, an artist is Black because we have this event. No, you should have Black, brown, any shape of artist the whole year around. So we are not a flavor for the month. We are human being. We are artists the whole year around. So that's also part of my conversation. So it is important for us to have this conversation with these institutions and people in power, because they are the ones that perpetuate the system, and they are the ones that have control with the educational system, with the cultural system. So they are the one holding that position. So it is part of my job as a activist is also to infiltrate the system and try to have this conversation in a nice way, and sometimes not so nice ways, depend how the conversation go, but it speak up, exactly how you say, speak up, have a voice. And when I'm sitting in that table, I'm representing a lot of people. I carry all of us with me. So this is a social responsibility to open the conversation and to create changes.
It's very important to have that as part of the conversation. And you're so right when it comes to, being at that table representing a whole like large amount of like these different communities, or, it's so I know that, or I know when it comes to me, like say if I'm just at school, or say if I like randomly have to start, like say I'm not expecting it and I go in somewhere and then people start asking me, oh, Devin, Race to Speak Up, Devin, Race to Speak Up podcast, like what are you doing? And then I kind of from there, of course, I represent my organization, but from there, I also start talking about the other organizations I work with dealing with anti-bullying. I start talking about the youth, like I represent, or at least I feel at times I represent the youth and how, they're mentally impacted by bullying, or they're physically impacted by bullying, the different types of bullying. How do people respond to this? How, these different aspects. But I'm happy to bring in my knowledge, and I'm happy to expand my knowledge by talking to people like you. And of course, when you're talking about this very important topic, it's so interesting to think about how we are very diverse, Black, Latino, like all these different things are very diverse, because I hear what you're saying. It's kind of being almost grouped together, is what you're saying when it comes to like Latinx or stuff like that. And then you're mentioning these other different like things earlier when it comes to like the Latin community and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, I didn't, I've never heard of these things before, This is so, I'm learning a lot from you. I
No,
haven't heard these things
exactly.
before.
No, you're totally right, because remember, all this labor of all these categories are created by the government to classify us. So not necessarily match us. So we need to be make sure that our identity is also put in front. It's like I was never thought about being Latina until I came here. I was Puerto Rican in my country. I never questioned that part of my identity. So when I came here, so now people refer to me as a Latina. Now it's in the whole Latinx, whatever that means. So I'm like, wow, why I need to be Latina? Why I'm a Puerto Rican artist and a Puerto Rican woman. So, and they become normal for people, but we shouldn't be normal. Why I shouldn't have my own way that I always see myself, And now I'm happy that in Latin America, you also expanded the whole concept. I'm celebrating the Afro descent. I'm Puerto Rican, so I'm minimum three races. The Taino, our indigenous people, African descendant, and Euro Spanish. So that's what we are. So it's not one or the other, or it's not a label. Oh, this is Latina. It's we are beyond. Plus, also each country is different. It's like, oh, you are from Africa. Africa is a continent. You need to respect each one of these countries. So it's like that. Like you cannot say there are different countries with different. Yet maybe we share some similarity, we share language, but it's a different cultures. But Caribbean is different from South America. South America is different from Central America. So that is important for people to start to understand who we are as a Latino communities and Latinx community. And I feel they apply for the same with Asian people of African descent. This concept of groupie everyone together. We need to really start having this conversation. Like we are like just creating a generic brand for people, and people have their own identities.
Starting off with a conversation really allows you to learn from all these different types of people. It's so nice to hear from different cultures. I know when it comes to, say, just, even people my age I talk to, and they're from completely different backgrounds. And I ask them, like, tell me about yourself. And, I want to learn about you. I want to learn about this culture. Tell me something. And then they tell me, and I think to myself, that's something I want to know. That's something I think a lot more people need to know. And that's something that needs to be shared with the world, all these different types of cultures and all these different types of people, this diverse, large amount of different types of people, these different lands, these different continents, like states, all these different things. And it's so, it there's a lot of truth when it comes into like the country or the state that you're in or something like that, where you're from this one place. And I mean, I can't fully speak on this, but I'm just saying, like, when you come from this one place and everyone sees you as, like, equal, you're not this and you're not this label, you're not this label. It's definitely, I can hear from what you're saying, it's extremely different from when you're in a new country or a new place and they're like, oh, she's Latina. Oh, she's this, and this. Oh, she's this, and this. How was that actually wait, when did you first come here actually?
I came 1996. I came to do my Master of Fine Art at Stony Brook University. I got a full ride. I was a teacher before in Puerto Rico. So that wasn't a very safe space at the university, obviously, very international. But when I decided to stay here in the 2000 and then decide to, really raise my family here, have a family here, I was like all confused, like, oh my God, like, like I don't know my place. It's not a welcoming space. It's not that we don't have plazas that you go and, hang out with people. I was shocked with the missing galleries and art spaces. And also I was feeling like my identity was erased. I had no value, nothing to offer. Like people saw me without no value. It's still me come here with the privilege as a professional performers and with a full ride or pay and teaching at Stony Brook University, So still imagine people that really came, with in a different circumstances. So I came here with a lot of privilege and I'm knowledge of that, I came just to be a scholar, an artist. And I still part of me was like erased. I feel like empty, like try to figure out my place. Because you miss your communities and you don't see anything that really engage you or represent you. Because this is Long Island stuff.
Yeah. You're right. I'm not denying that. So Margarita, what's been the most rewarding part of your Teatro Yerbabruja journey?
I have different ones. I think having a space now and that we can, have a space where people can go and meet, to have a space and sustain the space hard as an independent artist and not for profits. That's great. But one of the most challenges and reward experience was when I did the play What Killed Marcelo Lucero. I did the performance in Patchogue, and when you opened the show, you was talking about there was a death in Patchogue. They killed Marcelo Lucero by a high student gangs with a group of teenagers. So the last show, the father of the student that killed Marcelo came to see the show. So that was all, imagine that you always dream for that. You always dream to have a dialogue with the community after the show. And he was there. And when we finished the show, he raised his hand and he said, he wanted to justify that his son was not a murderer. So whatever, he was like talking that he was a child, but what happened is like, an accident. And so another member of the audience, took the stand and said, stop, Mr. Coverroy, your son is not the victim. The victim is a community. They just some terrorized. Just to have this audience talking about each other is like your dream come true. Like to having the possibility to have this dialogue and to that level of stance of a hate crime. And for me to respond that we are all victims. We are victims of the system, because if we live in a society that create hate crime, that family is also broken. Her son killed an immigrant, so this family that was broken too. So it's no happy ending. So we all losing here. What we need is a healthy society. They don't promote hate crime. They don't promote racism. That we can have a better understanding as a human perspective. So that was a moment, like, I was so sweating and stressing out. When you do a good art and go straight to the people, and people having this conversation, with that also come big responsibility for you as an artist, because you cannot do a show and agitate people or have your own version, because people had that they had the right to respond. So how do you prepare your audience, and what are the plan A, B, and C when you are doing a public event? So we had some audience at some point. There was a KKK people came to see the show, and they were like all out, about white supremacy. So for me to have that opportunity to have partners, other organizations, they also are expert in immigration, is expert in race and racism, and a support system that was like our play become the tool to have this conversation. And we have a coalition organization supporting the project. So everyone was winning with that. So that was for me so rewarding to see how we can work together as a coalition and how we can impact community. And we did run the play for 4 years, and still it's the conversation keep going. So that's so powerful to do powerful art with respect to the community, and having always partners. It's important to work in partnership to support you when you're working directly with the community, because you need to respect the community and also understand that there should be an action plan. What is next for the community? How the community can keep engaging after you remove yourself from that community, because you're doing other projects. So the community needs to stay engaged. So that's what's very, very important for me, and I learned a lot from that experience.
My next question was going to be, what are your hopes and dreams for Teatro Yerbabruja moving forward? I feel like you kind of answered that though also. Do you want to add any more?
I feel we are moving to a great year, with more like people like you. My dreams to keep expanding, keep collaborating with different communities, and keep opening the space for new artists, and just to celebrate our diversity and our great artists in Long Island.
Couldn't put it better myself. My last question for you is, how can people find you? Tell us your social media platform and your website.
Yes, the easy way is our website, teatroyerbabruja.org. And it's easy, and we are in Facebook, Teatro Yerbabruja, the same in Instagram, Teatro Yerbabruja. So yes, Teatro Yerbabruja in all platforms, you will find us. And also very important to support us. I feel welcome to go to our website, donate. Every dollar is important for us to keep the space running and to sustain our projects.
Awesome. Well, Margarita, you are such an inspiration to all. You are an incredible lady, and you're amazing. So thank you. Thank you for being here, and thank you to all who are listening. I hope to see you guys at future Race to Speak Up podcasts. If you have any questions about the Race to Speak Up podcast, feel free to contact me at racetospeakup@gmail.com. Make sure to follow at Race to Speak Up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter for updates on future podcasts. And join the Humanity Rising movement. Humanity Rising offers scholarships for students making a difference in the world through service. Visit www.humanityrising.org for more information. And remember to ask yourself this question: how do you race to speak up?